Hello, before we begin today's video, can you please like, share, and subscribe to the channel because it actually helps expand the wonderful knowledge of NY and JPA weather and helps yours truly. So I really would appreciate it. So thank you, and as always, stay safe out there. Now let's get to today's video. Good morning. Welcome to the Premium Public Video Forecast discussion for Friday, January 9th, 2026. Of course, I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino, CDM number 9. We have a lot to talk about today. Lots of changes and also a pretty good rainstorm for tomorrow afternoon. First of all, we're going to cover the latest data coming in from the CDC and Johns Hopkins, where, again, I share this data in cooperation because I think it's important. The flu, if you haven't heard, believe me, I felt it, is really running wild for this month. And December was rough, and apparently January is getting even worse, unfortunately. So definitely, if you are feeling a little off, take care of yourself, because there's definitely a lot of stuff floating around, but the flu seems to be the dominant virus this winter. So definitely stay safe. And if you're not feeling well, definitely see a doctor if you can. I think you should. Or, as I always do, and as my wife has helped me out with, chicken soup goes a long way. But just so you know, that's floating out there. You probably already know if you haven't already dealt with it, like I certainly did during right after Christmas. So it cannot be fun. Meanwhile, let's talk about what is evolving here with our weather pattern. Winter's canceled. I think not. We are in a break. And why are we in a break? It's not because of tropical forcing or the MJO or La Nina or El Nino or anything else of that nature. It's all about the polar vortex this winter. Some winters it is about tropical forcing. This winter, it's all about what is evolving with the polar vortex. And as of the observations from last night, you can see that it is pretty well consolidated and sitting up around the Arctic Circle, right? This pulls your polar and Arctic air northward, thus a relatively warm stretch of weather for the most part for the region. And so what you end up with is a weather pattern where you have temperatures in the 40s and 50s. Enjoy it while you can. It's coming to an end. And the reason why we know that is because aside from all the observations pointing to it and the return of stratospheric warming starting to get it going, hey, look, you have very strong model data from all the models, but we're using the European because it is the statistically best model, aside from the European AI, which is even slightly better, all pointing to this theme. And again, I'm not worried about the details here. I'm just looking at the theme. And the theme is another stretched polar vortex on the way, stretching from Siberia to North America. We worry about the details later, okay? This doesn't guarantee that you're going to see a winter storm or cold weather. It puts you in the game, okay? So basically, this is the entry into the playoffs, right? Okay, so if you're a football guy or girl, this setup here puts you in the game, okay? So we certainly are seeing this again. And why do I trust this? Because this has been the theme all the way back to the fall. We have this stretching polar vortex. It got blown up in late November around Thanksgiving, as we all know, leading to a very cold December, as we've all experienced. And now we have gone back to what we really saw for most of the fall, which is this stretching and warping of the polar vortex. And as a result, you end up with these waves of cold weather and waves of warm weather and back and forth. And we are on the cusp of going back to a cold phase once again. Meanwhile, the tropical forcing is going to be interesting as well. And the reason why is that the MJO is about to enter into phase 6, 7, somewhere around here, and then shoot towards phase 7 and 8, right? And when it does this shot from phase 7 to 8, any type of La Nina signal is really, really going to get crushed. It's already been getting crushed, but now it's just going to get kicked in the teeth. And so at this point, what you end up with is an amplified polar subtropical jet stream. And if you want to see that influence, let's take a look at the observations. La la la. And hey, look what we have here.
Well, there's your subtropical jet stream for tropical connection. There it's starting to develop here, heading all the way up into our neck of the woods. So what this tells me, and we'll come back to this satellite picture in a moment to talk about the rest of the weather pattern, is that, hey, things are getting ready to change. And what we're going to be watching for, you see this convection starting to fire here and here. Watch for this to grow around here as we move forward over the next couple of days. We've seen pulses over the past couple of days, more and more setup. You're going to see a rapid warming in Nino 4, which is about here, and Nino 3.4, which is right about here. And you're going to see cold water hang on around the eastern zones, but the influence of that is going to continue to fade. Okay, so we don't just go from La Nina to El Nino like that. It's a process, but that process is happening live, and so what that leads to is a steady increase in short waves in the subtropical jet stream. It also leads to me having headaches because it leads to a whole lot of chaos, and that is what we're seeing in the model guidance now. Now, currently in our observations, we have high pressure in control. High pressure starting to exit. We have scattered cloud cover around here. Plenty of sunshine this morning. Overall, a pleasant morning with temperatures starting to rise. Where we've seen enough clearing, we've had our temperatures plummet into the mid 20s to lower 30s. Where we had a little bit more cloud cover, temperatures are rebounding pretty quickly into the lower to mid 30s, even a few lower 40s. So it's kind of like hodgepodge. Not a lot of winds at all. It's pretty light and variable winds, pretty quiet. When we step back, there's our first warm front. Okay, so this low pressure system heads up into the St. Lawrence River Valley, leading to these showers by this evening. This is kind of an appetizer, okay? Then we get a little bit of a break, and then let's zoom out here on our radar. And this area of low pressure falls up behind it, and it takes all this convection that's starting to bubble down here in the Mississippi River Valley and drives it right into our neck of the woods, leading to waves of rainfall. Quite frankly, we need it. So tomorrow afternoon, let's say after 10 a.m. on through the rest of the afternoon and evening hours, you're just going to get waves of rainfall setting up from this environment. And so when we take a look at the infrared satellite picture, again, not a lot of lifting with this feature. This is lifting northward. This is a pretty vigorous upper level low associated with this whole setup here that's going to be picking up all of this moisture. And you can also see that here in the water vapor satellite picture. Nice short wave in the subtropical jet stream, getting ready to interact with all this moisture, driving it right into our neck of the woods. Again, this upper level low will head to the west of us. So this is a warm setup, no real threat for any type of wintry precipitation until you get to basically central and northern New England. But an interesting point here, because we're seeing a little bit more convergence confluence as this feature exits and this one approaches, we're not going to get the very warm air. A couple days ago, we had support for temperatures in the 50s and 60s for tomorrow. That is gone. Now we're talking about temperatures in the 40s. So, a 20-degree drop in the forecast. Interesting. Well, that certainly supports the fact that, hey, the model guidance is having a little bit of a trouble with some of the blocking mechanisms happening here in the higher latitudes and how that interacts with the mid latitudes. Just something to just kind of put in the back of your mind as we look at the rest of this data. So we have this setup here evolving, and for this weekend, you notice our jet streaks are off to the northwest of us, and you could see in this scenario here plenty of lifting for setting up for tomorrow. Nice jet streak set up here for us to see waves of rainfall. Okay, that's pretty much locked in. Now, why am I very interested about going forward? Well, first, let's look from the top of the atmosphere down. Start off with the jet dynamics. So understand that as this whole pattern is changing, the model guidance is not going to have your storm and the details. In terms of what you're seeing now is most likely not the details that you're going to be looking for. Okay, once we get under 5 days and 3 days, it's going to look different. But what stands out to me is that I'm seeing these trends, all right, on all the models of more enhancement of this jet streak here and this jet streak here for the 15th and 16th. And when I see this, I say, okay, somewhere around here, there's going to be some pretty strong cyclogenesis. It's just a matter of how do these shortwaves interact. But more importantly, I am now seeing more support for this trough axis to go in what's called a negative tilt. Okay, just slightly, just enough, which is a major change in all the troughs for this whole winter. This whole winter, we've been dealing with positively tilted troughs, fast-moving systems, progressive. This is really the first time that we've gotten under 180 hours and we actually have a negatively tilted trough. Reality is that we haven't had, even under 300 hours, a sign of a negatively tilted trough. But wait, there's more. Once we go beyond that point, then we get to the 19th and 20th. And again, signs of a trough going into a negative tilt here, and nice divergence and diffluence. So certainly this piques my interest. I'm not worried about the details. I'm not trying to get a snow map correct 10 days out or any of that nonsense. I'm just looking at the potential here. And what stands out to me is that, hey, these troughs are a little bit more negatively tilted, which means slower moving storms, which means more interaction with polar air and a very interesting setup. But the problem is that, and this goes back to our subtropical jet stream discussion and the stretching of the polar vortex, is that you have so many short waves involved in this that every model run that will likely be shared on social media, especially if it's heavy snow in their backyard, is going to show a different solution every 6 hours, because it's basically trying to work out these different combinations of how all these short waves are going to interact in this environment. So don't bother with the snow maps. Don't be surprised you get one model run where there's no storms, and another run where there's 3 storms, and then one where there's a massive. It's going to be all over the place. The usual suspects are going to lose their freaking mind over the next 5 days. But in the meantime, when we look at 500 millibar PVA, here we are for this weekend. Again, there's 1, and then here's 2 lifting north of us. So there's our setup. And for this weekend, a lot of this is driven by isotropic lifting. So a lot of waves of rainfall, right? So this comes through Sunday for your Eagles game, dry, but a bit windy. All right. And then we have our trough come through. And then here we go for the 15th. We start off on the evening of the 14th here. 0Z, 15Z is basically 7 p.m. on the 14th. And you can see what stands out to me is that, hey, now this feature is diving into the backside of this trough, and these short waves start to intensify. Notice how you kind of get this pop mark here starting to show up here. So now you start to set up that little bit of swing here, diving into the back end of these troughs, and another feature coming in right behind it. So again, the ridge axis is not where I want it to be, and so that's an issue. So that would probably that would support this getting pushed a little bit further to the east. Okay, so we have to watch that. But the interaction here is very interesting. And look at all the different short waves involved here. Some of this is likely an error, and some of this is real. The problem is that it's hard to pick out which one's which right now. And so you end up with all these different solutions with all these different shortwaves interacting, right? So with this ridge, if it builds and becomes more expansive, which there is some support for that on the ensembles, then you end up with a little bit deeper trough and a little bit different situation. But there's a chance that all these short waves don't interact properly, and this just passes out as rain, snow showers on Thursday, snow showers on Friday. So that's what we're going to go with for right now. The other thing that kind of concerns me in this situation is that you also have cold air trying to rush in at this time period. And whenever you have cold air trying to rush into a situation, it typically means that you end up with rain, snow showers, and snow showers. But if you get the interaction a little bit faster, well, again, things get more interesting. And then you want to keep an eye on where this zone between -6 and -8 sets up, because that is where you get your heavy snowfall potential. Down here is more like a mix. So again, that is for the 15th and 16th that we're going to watch out for. And again, when we take a look at the omega values, again, for this weekend, this gives you an idea on the isotropic lifting. Here we have the isotropic lifting for Saturday. Again, some very heavy rainfall setting up. And then as we shift towards the 14th and 15th, there's a lot of noise. Lots of noise out here. Lots of noise. Okay? So if this ridge isn't built, this makes more sense. If the ridge builds a little bit more, this starts shifting towards the coast. Very interesting setup. But wait, there's more. Then there's the 19th and 20th that we have to watch out for. Again, you're going to see all sorts of different solutions every 6 to 12 hours, depending on what model you want to share. You know who you are. Okay. You're going to get a different solution every time. Why? Because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, you have 5 up here. All these different shortwaves here, all interacting, diving in. Ridge axis is a little bit better. This makes a little bit more sense, a little bit closer to where I would look for it. You already have cold air established, and it's a matter of how these shortwaves interact and how that influences your rain snow line. Again, now we're talking about 10 days out. So, of course, everyone's going to share that solution. So what you see here is this setup. Again, lots of different solutions can come out of this. You can end up with 2 winter storms, no winter storms, or just 1, okay? It's just a matter of how these different shortwaves interact. So don't be surprised if you see these different solutions. As far as our cold air, again, right now it's warm. Here comes the cold air. This is going to lead to windy conditions on Sunday evening. Be prepared for that, because as the cold air comes in, we're going to get mixing, and this is going to lead to some wind gusts on Sunday evening. So don't be surprised, 10 to 20 mile per hour winds, gusts around 40. Don't be surprised by that. And then after that, we have these waves of cold air coming in. And then here's our 15th period, where again, we're going to go with snow shower wording for Friday rather than trying to amp anything up. Okay, we'll go with scattered snow showers. If it doesn't materialize, hey, we just got a few snow showers and that's it. If it does, then we can increase the wordage and increase the focus on that time period. But certainly plenty of cold air in place. And then we have our next storm potential. Again, nice gradient. This would, if you want to do this verbatim, which you shouldn't, then you'd say rain on the immediate coast, some wintry mix on I-95, heavy snow over the interior, making those guys happy, but still a pretty good storm. So there is a lot to work with here. So in the meantime, let's dive into our forecast. For today, look for increasing clouds, showers by this evening. Look for high temperatures in the mid to upper 40s over the northern interior, lower to mid 50s along the coast. For tonight into tomorrow morning, variable cloud cover with a few isolated showers. The steady rainfall starts to return more towards the late morning hours. Look for low temperatures in the lower to mid 30s over the northern interior, mid to upper 30s along the coast. Tomorrow afternoon, rain expands and pushes into the region, heavy at times, especially in the afternoon and evening hours. Look for high temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 40s throughout the region. What you have here is your primary low here, occluded front here, triple point low pressure system here with your occluded front, warm front, cold front. And so that leads to a lot of lifting, and thus the heavy rainfall. Perhaps a little bit of freezing rain or sleet in the highest elevations in the Catskills, but really any type of wintry threat is up towards New England. By the time we get to Saturday night into Sunday morning, that low pressure system exits. Rain in the early morning on Sunday, followed by clearing skies. Look for low temperatures on Sunday morning after the rain leaves, ranging from the mid to upper 20s over the northern interior, lower to mid 30s in the Delaware River Valley, mid to upper 30s along the immediate coast. For Sunday afternoon, look for sky cloud cover, a flurry or two is possible with high temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 30s over the northern interior, upper 30s to lower 40s along the coast, with winds from the west around 5 to 15 miles per hour, veering to the northwest at 10 to 20 miles per hour as we head towards the evening. So if you're going to the Eagles game, I would bundle up, because of the winds. But I'm not really expecting any precipitation, or maybe a flurry might pass through. On Monday, a high pressure system will be in control with scattered cloud cover expected. Look for low temperatures in the lower to mid 20s over the northern interior, mid to upper 20s along the coast. High temperatures in in the lower to mid 30s over the northern interior, upper 30s to lower 40s along the coast. So back to traditional winter. On Tuesday, high pressure remains in control with sky cloud cover. Look for low temperatures in the lower to mid 20s over the northern interior, upper 20s to lower 30s along the coast. High temperatures in the lower to mid 40s throughout the region. On Wednesday, a cold front will approach with increasing clouds and isolated shower to look for low temperatures in the lower to mid 30s over the northern interior, upper 30s to lower 40s along the coast, high temperatures in the mid to upper 40s. Then our Arctic cold front approaches. Look for rain and snow showers and some shenanigans starting to organize around here. Again, right now there's a lot of noise in the mild guidance during this time period. Look for low temperatures in the lower to mid 30s over the northern interior, mid to upper 30s along the coast. High temperatures in the upper 30s to lower 40s over the northern interior, mid to upper 40s along the coast. Again, if this Arctic cold front's a little bit faster because we start to see more interaction faster, then this is going to end up being a much colder forecast. So just put that on there. And how much colder? Well, let's take a look at Friday. There's our little low pressure system that it could be organizing here that we're going to watch. It's a little bit too far east right now, but again, we'll keep an eye on how this all evolves, including perhaps an inverted trough. We'll keep an eye on it. I'm going to go with scattered snow showers for now, so that way we don't go from one extreme to the other. But look at the type of temperatures we're dealing with by Friday morning. Lows in the single digits to lower teens in the northern interior. Mid to upper teens in the suburbs, lower to mid 20s in your urban areas and on the immediate coast. High temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 20s over the northern interior and upper 20s to lower 30s along the coast. That is your forecast discussion for today. It was a long one, but a chock full of a lot of data. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, stay safe out there.
Thank you for watching today's video. I really do appreciate it. But if you want to help the channel out even more, and myself, of course, you might want to check out Premium Consulting Membership, which provides amazing content and information that you get beyond the daily video that you see Monday through Friday. So what do you get? Well, you get updates every day in the Premium dashboard, starting with, of course, checking out the latest winter forecast or other seasonal forecasts throughout the year, live coverage room where you can ask me questions live and I respond usually within a few minutes. Also, the latest holiday updates, how the weather will impact that upcoming holiday. If you are into landscaping or you work in landscaping, should I say, you will get the latest details on whether or not rainfall will be a threat and impact your job. And of course, there is all the other content. The zoomed in impact map, the severe threat analysis, long range thoughts, the premium consulting video, and also energy analysis, seasonal analysis, additional analysis when the storms get really tricky, winter storm overviews, and when the tropics gets really active, all of the updates, including the individual storms and the overview as well. And if you're a business owner, we also have a specific impact forecast for you guys as well, your own weather map. So let's take a look at the prices. Pretty fair. $15 a month gets you all this information. If you're looking for a little bit of a discount, you can also have a yearly at $150 and quarterly at $60. And also, for all of you business owners out there, you have the ability to get your own web page, your own consulting analysis based on what you need every day in the morning, updated Monday through Sunday without any delay. And of course, you can call me up as well and have that one-on-one consultation. So all this and more at NY and JPA Weather. Thank you as always for being a subscriber and watching the videos. But if you're looking for a little bit more, this would definitely be one of the ways to do so. So in the meantime, stay safe out there.